Guys, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're starting off with the lecture. I have this really good resource which has all these past paper questions. And what we'll be doing from now onwards is we'll study the topics through these questions. We've done the Mughal Empire, the East India Company in history. So we're going to go through the questions. The questions from Mughal Empire are very easy. So I'll be giving you those to read on your own and then attempt them as an assignment. But I'm going to explain these East India Company questions to you here. So the questions here given in this resource are exactly based on the pattern of your CIE exam: 4-mark questions, 7-mark questions, and 14-mark questions. As I've already explained, that 4-mark questions are basically point marking questions. Just you guys are just supposed to write 4 points and you get marks. For example, look at this question: who was Ranjit Singh? So we've studied about Ranjit Singh while studying this chapter EIC. So you can write any 4 points. I've written 5 for you here. You can pick up any 4 which you think are good. For example, he was the ruler of Punjab. Until he was alive, the British had no courage to attack him. British accepted his authority in Punjab but did not fight with him. And you could say British and Ranjit Singh had an agreement that Afghanistan should be independent. These are any 4, I mean, these are the 4 points that you can pick up. You can even write points other than these 4. For example, any date mentioning the wars that took place, the wars with the Ranjit Singh and British. All right. So similarly, the next question: who was Tipu Sultan? So you can pick up any 4 points. He was the ruler of Mysore. He and his father fought against the British in the series of Anglo-Mysore wars. Tipu was also betrayed by his trusted general Mir Sadiq, and he was killed. British got the control of Mysore. We're talking about the Anglo-Mysore war over here, when his general betrayed him, and as a result, British took over Mysore, and Tipu Sultan was killed in that war. Okay, so you see how these 4-mark questions are mostly based on the personalities, and you'll also see different events being asked in these questions. Who is Robert Clive? Very easy question. He was the EIC general who fought in the battles of Plassey and Buxar. He also defeated the French. He was a hero and a very important figure in the eyes of British. He was appointed as the governor general, as the governor of Bengal. He got addicted to opium and later on committed suicide. This was the 5th point. I think this is used. Let's just pick up the first 4 points. They're important. You can even mention the dates of Battle of Plassey. That's going to make your answer more strong. All right. If you write about the dates, any specific tactic, right? And how did he defeat French and anything like that. Who was Charles Napier? Now, okay, guys, we didn't study about Charles Napier, but again, he was also an important figure in the history during these events, but you should also know about him. So Charles Napier was an officer and veteran of the British Army. In August 1842, he was assigned the Sindh command. Sindh, this is Sindh, right? He conquered Sindh in 1843 and served as its general, as governor general. So guys, remember when we talked about the annexation of Sindh in 1843, that is when, that annexation took place under the leadership of Charles Napier in 1843, and after they conquered Sindh, he was made the governor of that area. As governor, now because you need to write 4th point, if you look at this 4th one here, this is just an extra detail of how he established control in that region. Napier established a model police force, encouraged trade, and began on work on a breakwater and water supply facilities for Karachi. All right. Then what was the Act of Parliament of 1773? EIC had started, this Act of Parliament, you guys remember when was it passed? Do you guys remember an important event of history after which the Act of Parliament was passed, guys? This is a question anyone would like to answer. Which important event took place before the passing of this Act of Parliament? No? Ahmed, would you like to add something? Dua, do you remember the event? No. Okay. Guys, 1773. We were talking about the Battle of Plassey. After Battle of Plassey, British took control of Bengal and they started this exploitation. So the British Parliament, they had to intervene and they had to stop these illegal practices of the EIC. right? So this is when the Act of Parliament was passed in 1773. EIC had started misgovernment in Bengal. The British government was forced to act to try to stop this misgovernment. It then passed Act of Parliament, which required EIC to provide a good governance to stop this anarchy. Later on, India Act was passed and control was taken from EIC. So what happened over here was when EIC, they took control of Bengal after this Battle of Plassey. They were obviously implementing their own political practices. They were imposing heavy taxation on the farmers. They were trying to control the finances of the entire province. So what happened was British government from the UK Parliament, they tried to, they passed this Act of Parliament in 1773, asking the EIC to stop this misgovernment. They didn't ask EIC for a direct control, a control transfer from EIC to the British government. They just asked EIC to stop this anarchy. But later, another act was passed known as the India Act. And under that act, they said that EIC will no longer be controlling India, and the political system, all the government will go under the British government directly. So these were some important turns of the events that took place right after the Battle of Plassey and when the British took control of the Bengal province, right? What was the India Act of 1784, guys? This is the act that I'm talking about, when this Act of Parliament was replaced with this act, and British, they said that they were taking direct control. So it was passed in 1784. British government took direct control of Indian possessions. Governor generals, provincial governors, commander-in-chief of the armed forces were appointed. A professional civil service was set up. EIC continued trade. So now these 4 important points: number 1, that they took direct control; number 2, provincial governors, commander-in-chiefs were appointed. British themselves were appointing commander-in-chiefs and provincial governors of India. Then they also set up a civil service. Civil service was kind of a centralized service which controlled these major legal system departments, police, judiciary, law, and everything. And they also had these examinations where the people had to appear in these centralized examinations, and then they were appointed for these civil service positions. EIC continued to trade. They didn't have any administrative powers at this point. The role of EIC was solely for trade, and they weren't allowed to interfere in the political practices of India at this time. I think there's a new student who's joined us today. Fatma, can you hear me? Are you there with us? Hello, Fatma, can you hear me? No? Okay. So guys, moving on. What was Charter Act of 1833? So, all right, Fatma, welcome to the class. This must be your demo class, I'm guessing. So we've already covered history till EIC. In fact, we're doing these questions now. So you can just I don't know if you've already studied these topics before or not. Just let me know if you've studied these topics, or if you're studying them for the first time as well. Just let me know. You can follow up with the classes from here. But I can arrange cover up classes for you if you decide to join these regularly. All right. So yeah, just do let me know if you have any questions. Guys, what was the Charter Act of 1833 now? It was passed by the British Parliament, which renewed the East India Company's charter for another 20 years. Indians could become part of administrative body through civil service examinations. Language was English, so very few people could become employed as members. Companies' commercial activities were closed down. It was made into an administrative body for British Indian possessions. Companies' trade links with China were also closed down. So now what happened was, in this Charter Act of 1833 had limited EIC's power to a great extent. So what happened here was that, first of all, the charter was renewed for another 20 years. They were allowed to trade for another 20 years in India. And under this act, they had already set up the civil service. They had already set up a civil service examination. One of the problems with this examination was that because it was in English and very few people in India could understand, read or write English at that time. So it was very difficult for the Indians to get employed, right? Okay, now what the Charter Act of 1833 did was, it limited the power of EIC. They it cut the trade links of EIC with China. It also closed down these commercial activities of the company. And okay, let's read these points. The country's administration was unified under one control. The act legalized the British colonization of the country. Okay, now they officially legalized this colonization, that British will be taking control of India. EIC will just be trading, whereas the British government will be controlling the political affairs of India. Okay. The company still possessed the Indian territories, but it was held in trust for His Majesty. So, guys, I hope these points are clear to you. Charter Act of 1833. This was a very, very important act because this is where the Indians are, the British, they are officially taking control of India. Any questions so far? No, all right. Okay, now we're gonna be looking at the significance of this Charter Act, the importance. Okay, I'll ask this question from you guys first of all. We've just studied what this Charter Act of 1833 was, how the limited EIC's trade activities, their administrative powers. I mean, they were still allowed to trade. The British government officially announced that they would be taking over India because they legalized colonization of any country here. So guys, what is the importance of Charter Act of 1833? You can unmute yourself and you can tell me the answer. Yeah.
Legal colonization.
Colonization. So this is, this is important for the British, right? So
yeah,
how do you think it's important for the Indians?
So it gives them, I don't know, a sense of control.
No sense of control. Okay.
A sense of control.
A sense of control to the Indians.
Yeah, so as before they were under the control of a company, and now
they're under control of a country. British are directly controlling them. So I think if you want to write about this more control with Indians, you can talk about the civil service. Yeah, that the British they although tried to control India directly, they still launched the civil service to employ Indians in these legal judiciary posts and everything, right? So you can talk about that.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think do also mention the point that the civil service didn't prove to be very successful either because of the language crisis. Indians weren't able to compete in the CSS examinations. Why? Because those exams were in English. So again, they had very little control now. So the history from now onwards, guys, will be about this fight of control. Indians will be seeking control back. The British, they'll be trying to uphold, they'll be trying to sustain their control, and we'll talk about a lot of reforms, a lot of policies that will be designed by the government, British government, to govern India. Indians will be fighting for their power throughout, and this will continue till 1947, the partition, right? So now, doctrine, okay, yeah, what was the significance? It was the first step in the centralization of India's administration. Yeah, Ahmed, as you were telling, that they were not under a company anymore. They were centralized. The government was actually managing now. We're not talking about how good or bad that was. I mean, obviously they were colonized, which wasn't a good thing for India, but still, because they were centralized, the centralized government was taking control. So this was, this was important. The ending of the East India Company's commercial activities and making it into the British Crown's trustee in administering India. Yeah, EIC, it wasn't allowed to interfere in any commercial activity, which was the good thing. Codification of laws under Macaulay. They had designed their own laws, provision for Indians in government service. This is civil service here. Separation of the executive and legislative functions of the council. Yeah, so what the British government did was they divided the Indian Council into two parts, executive and legislative council. Executive council was responsible for all of these major decisions. Legislative council was basically the ones that, just like a parliament, They used to pass these laws. They used to design these different policies, and they were implemented by these people. What was the doctrine of lapse? Now we've talked about doctrine of lapse in detail as well. Let's uh, see this answer here. It's a 4-mark question again. So doctrine of lapse was introduced by Governor General Lord Dalhousie. It was an annexation policy to annex the independent Indian states. According to this act, any ruler of state who died without having a national heir, his lands would be taken by the British. Later on, lands such as Nagpur, Satara, Jhansi were taken through this policy. A very important policy. It was, it was also an attempt by the British to take control of these lands, especially the independent states. They were taking control of these major provinces through these invasions. For example, Delhi, Bengal, and Sindh, Punjab. But the independent states, for example, Nagpur, Satara, Jhansi, these independent states were taken control by the British under this policy. They stated that if any landlord died without having a natural hire of the lands, that land would go under British control directly. So this policy was also misused later on. Some of the rulers, they had their natural hires, but still British took control of the lands using this policy as an excuse. So doctrine of lapse was an attempt to annex more lands, especially the independent states, and this policy was misused. What was the Vernacular Acts of 1878? So guys, what the British did was, Indians, when they realized after the colonization, after British had legalized colonization, they realized that their power was threatened. British had threatened their power. They had already replaced Persian with English. They had English with Persian, sorry. They had already banned some of the Indian practices. They were trying to spread Christianity. So the social status, the religion, the culture, all of these aspects were at risk. So Indians, they wanted to fight for their power at this point. And British, they passed this Vernacular Acts of 1878 to control that Indian freedom as well. So Vernacular Press Act was passed to reduce. So under this Vernacular Act, they what they did was they passed a series of acts controlling multiple sectors. For example, the press, gathering of the Indians, television, industry, right? So the Press Act passed to reduce the freedom of Indian press and prevent criticism against British policies. The newspapers would contain pro-British articles and news should not be against the British. By this act, no Indians could manufacture, sell, possess, and carry firearms. However, the English people could do so. Indians were not allowed to carry weapons without license. So this was another contradictory policy that the English people were allowed to carry these weapons without license, whereas the Indians weren't. Indians were also not allowed to manufacture, sell, possess any firearms. Dramatic Performance Act, in which no dramas or TV shows would be made against British. So if you look at this policy, the Vernacular Acts of 1878, they were passed to control this power, to limit the Indian freedom. All right. Guys, any questions so far? I think there's another student joining us, Furkan. Are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. So all the new students are joining today, guys. We have already covered a few topics. We're on East India Company. So if you feel like, if you want me to arrange a cover lesson for you guys, just do let me know. Because I don't know if you've covered these topics before in school or not. So just do let me know if you need a cover up lesson for all the previous missed out topics. Okay. All right. How did the British drain India's wealth? I want you guys to answer this question. How did the British drain India's wealth? Yeah. Liz, are you there?
They stole their jewels.
Okay. Anything else? By taking control of their cotton. Exactly. They took control of the cotton industries. As you know, India at that time, the subcontinent region was growing cotton because of the agro economy, and they had established their cotton industries to process that cotton to value added products to export. And for local use, British, what they did was they took control of those industries. They wanted to maximize the profits and they wanted to keep the profits them. So yeah, this is another attempt as to how they were draining India's wealth. Yeah, British drained India's wealth in many ways. They got a lot of money through crops, jewels, imposing taxes. Locally grown crops such as cotton, tea were brought cheaply, but were sold out of India at very high prices. This resulted in famines and economic collapse of Indian people. All of the, yeah, herbs and spices, exactly. They were actually trying. They were controlling all of these um resources of India, these important resources, right? So, and you can also mention a few examples for these: cotton, herbs, spices, tea, right? Jewels, and all the other crops. Jute was a very important crop that was grown in that area at that time. They were also trying to control those that jute. So yeah, why now we're moving on to 7 mark questions, guys. The second type of level marking question: why did EIC become interested in India during the early 17th century? We've done this question many times before. So this is a model answer, a 7 mark question, 3 reasons. I'm just gonna read one reason from this, because we've done this question a couple of times before. Just focus on the analysis, okay? Because these answers are to be attempted in 3 steps. You state the reason, you explain the reason, and you analyze the reason. Let's look at the first one. EIC became interested in India because of its immense wealth. British thought that if they traded with India, they would earn a lot of profit due to its resources and crops such as jute, cotton, indigo, gypsum. There was high demand of these resources in Europe. British also started to call India as Golden Sparrow. See, so EIC became involved in India due to the profitable trade and the rich resources wealth of India. So if you focus on the last point, guys, the EIC became involved in India due to the profitable trade and the rich resources. This is the analysis. If you write when you write an answer to a 7 or a 14-mark question, it's very important for you to analyze your answer as well. All right. You explain the reason and then you link. Analysis is how you link your reason back to the question. You question yourself that are you actually answering the question in the right ways? All right. And then you have to link the reason back to the question. That is how you'll write a successful analysis. Let's move on to the next question. Why did the British government take control from EIC in early 17th century? So we're talking about, again, the events after the Battle of Plassey, when the EIC started controlling Bengal, and the British government, they limited EIC's control and they took direct control of India. So the question is, why did British government take control from EIC? Why did they limit the power of EIC now? This question could be framed in multiple languages. Just know that the main theme of this question is that why were the British trying to limit the control of EIC and why did they take control directly? So number one, let's just talk about, let's pick up any one reason here. Okay, let's read this one, the last one. The Russians and the British both wanted to take control of Afghanistan. There was a threat that Russia might capture Afghanistan and cause trouble for British and subcontinent as well. In this grave situation, it was not wise to leave the affairs to EIC, which was a trading company and had already suffered humiliating defeat in Afghanistan. So British government took control from EIC. Okay, one of the reasons as to why the British took control of the EIC was because of this this threat of Afghan invasion. It was not wise to leave these affairs in the hands of a trading company. British government, because they had to now move strategically, they had to make clever plans to combat this Afghan invasion as well. And EIC had suffered a humiliating defeat in Afghanistan, guys. So at this point, it was thought that a wise move would be to take control of the India directly instead of leaving it into the hands of a trading company. Another reason was these you could say illegal practices. Let's read this second last reason. The control was taken from EIC due to its status. The trade and profits of EIC had increased to such a high extent that British government thought that it was not fit to leave this much wealth and management in the hands of EIC. Also, the traders already in England opposed EIC's trade. EIC had a lot of profits and wealth and became an important asset of state, so British government took control from it. So because EIC had become such a wealthy company at this time, and they were managing this India's wealth, the British government thought that it's not wise to leave this wealth, this financial management in the hands of a trade company, and that they should directly take control of India. Okay, and you can write another reason that they were involved in these illegal practices, imposition of heavy taxation, training of Bengal's wealth and everything, and British government thought that it's not right, it's not fair to the people of the India, right? This was another point. So yeah, guys, any questions so far? I hope this question was clear to you. These are very important questions. All of these are from the past exam papers. So, and these are the model answers. You guys should understand these very properly. Okay. Any questions? Should we move on? Okay, I'm guessing. Yeah. Why were the British able to conquer India? We've also discussed this question a couple of times in class. Why were they able to conquer India? So now you can either talk about the importance of the British or the weaknesses of the Indians. Number one, let's talk about the Industrial Revolution. The most important reason which gave the British edge in every battle they fought against Indians was their weaponry, strategies, and army. The British had latest weaponry due to Industrial Revolution, and they had well-trained, loyal soldiers and generals who fought bravely. The Indians did not stand a chance against the stronger British, which was why the British were able to conquer India. Okay, this is the analysis, guys. If you read these bold lines in the end, the Indians did not stand a chance against the strong British. So now British went through Industrial Revolution. Now, how was this Industrial Revolution a reason for the British to conquer India? Why were the British able to conquer India? Because of this Industrial Revolution. This is where you answer the question, that Indians did not stand a chance against the stronger British, which was why British were able to conquer India. British were so strong, Indians couldn't match that power. And yeah, this is why they had this edge over the Indians and they were able to take control of India. Another reason why British were able to conquer India was the battles of Plassey and Buxar. In the Battle of Plassey, British defeated Nawab Siraj-ud-Dawla and got control of the wealthiest province of Bengal. In the Battle of Buxar, they defeated Shah Alam II, Mir Qasim, and Nawab Mahmud, and also got resources and trading rights of their territories, making them even stronger and capable to capture India. Now, the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, the result of these battles was that British got, an extended control of the resources, the trading rights, and it was easier for them to take control of the rest of the territories. Okay. And the third point was the weaknesses of the Indians, that they fought against each other and had unreliable military. Indians also did not have latest weaponry and planned war poorly. This proved to be an advantage for the British, who easily defeated the Indians and got full control over India for over a century. Yeah, so Indians' weaknesses were an advantage for the British. They easily captured India because of that. So again, why were the British able to replace Mughals as dominant force in the subcontinent? These are again similar reasons. You can write about the weaknesses of the Mughals. We're going to skip this question. And let's talk about why did the British annex Sindh? Yeah, so annexation of Sindh over here. We've also done this question in class. The three reasons could be, they wanted to make up for this, for the defeat in Afghanistan. There was a threat of Ranjit Singh's expansion, and there was also a threat of Russian expansion. Guys, you can read through these three reasons on your own. I'm giving you guys a few minutes to go through this question, this entire answer on your own, and let me know if there's any question. Guys, have you read the response?
Sir, can you send this link in the group?
Yeah, sure. I do have a Google Drive mail. I'll add you in that Google Drive. You can access all of these notes there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, why was Robert Clive appointed as the first governor of Bengal? Okay, so now in this question, we'll just be talking about these, you could say, you could the strong fee how do I phrase this? Just a second. Yeah, all of these tactics that were used by Robert Clive. You could talk about his previous experiences, for example, in the Battle of Plassey, and how strong of a military leader he was. For example, if you remember, he even bribed Mir Jafar, the army chief of the Bengal, and all of these clever strategies that were used by him to take control of these areas. So let's look at the first one. Battle of Plassey led to the appointment of Robert Clive as the governor of Bengal. Nawab Sirajuddaulah had attacked the EIC base at Calcutta, but Robert Clive came with his forces to take back the lands captured by Nawab. With the help of Mir Jafar, army chief of Nawab, Robert Clive defeated Sirajuddaulah. Due to this, British got control of Bengal, and Robert Clive was appointed as Bengal's governor. Yeah. So Battle of Plassey was the most important event for the appointment of uh, Robert Clive, because in that war, Robert Clive proved that he was the most capable of person for this position of Governor General. And yeah, okay. Another reason for the appointment of Robert Clive was the Battle of Buxar. The combined forces of Mir Qasim Shah Alam II, Nawab of Oudh, had attacked on the British, but they were defeated by the British with the help of Robert Clive. Consequently, British got resources of the areas of Mir Qasim, Shah Alam II, and Nawab of Oudh, and also got trading regiments. All of this was possible due to the efforts of Robert Clive, so he was considered the most valuable, suitable choice. Again, guys, look at the analysis. Analysis is very nicely connecting the entire reason with the question. You've talked about how Battle of Buxar was a reason for the appointment of Robert Clive. Then why did this battle prove to be a reason for that? This is where you talk about, I mean, this is where you write the analysis that because of that battle, it was possible for Robert Clive to access all of these resources, and all of that was possible due to the efforts of Robert Clive. This is why he was appointed. Okay. Robert Clive was also made as the governor of Bengal due to his skills. He efficiently and successfully used the support of local influential leaders, Mir Jafar in the Battle of Plassey and Mir Sadek in the final Anglo-Mysore War. His strategies and war tactics enabled him to win these battles, so his military skills and administrative capabilities made him a best option for working on such important position. Yeah, you're not talking about his skills, his tactics, his strategies, his administrative capabilities, how he bribed Mir Jafar, how he bribed Mir Sadek in the Anglo-Mysore War. So this is why uh, his capabilities made him the best option for the post of Governor General of Bengal. Yeah, okay. So, Sana, the rank governors were basically all those people responsible for certain provinces, governors of different provinces, right? And then there were governors of the armies. So, governors of the armies are known as governor generals. They're the leaders of the specific armies. For example, in Battle of Plassey, Mir Jafar was the governor general of the Indian Army. Robert Clive was the governor general of the British Army. And then the governors are basically the leaders of that specific province. For example, governor of Bengal was Robert Clive after the Battle of Plassey. Indian governors were all of those provincial governors who were responsible for their certain provinces. The viceroys were all those leaders that were sent by the British in India. I mean, they were above these governors. Viceroys used to appoint these governors, and they were obviously the British people. No Indian could ever be a viceroy because those British were sent from the UK for a temporary period of time in India to look after these political matters and appoint these governor generals and the governors. Okay, Indians could be the governors, governor generals, but they couldn't be viceroys. So this position of viceroy was specific for the British only. I hope this is clear.
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay, guys, now this is a 14-mark question. What was the Industrial Revolution in Britain the most important reason why British were able to take control of India? This is a 14-mark question. You need to write 7 reasons for this. Was the Industrial Revolution the most important reason why British were able to take control of India? So you're going to first of all start writing this answer by talking about the Industrial Revolution. After you write Industrial Revolution, you're going to move on to the next level. You'll write 6 more reasons as to why the British were able to take control of India. And then last paragraph will be an evaluation, agreeing to which reason do you think was the most important. Are you clear with the pattern, guys? Is the pattern clear to everyone? 14-mark question, 7 reasons. You're going to start writing with this first reason, that is the Industrial Revolution. And after this, you're going to move on to the next reason, write 6 other reasons, and then 1 evaluation at the end. Okay, so guys, that is it for today. Just a second.